today's workshop on the data-centric digital rights. I am Desai. I am a PhD student at South Asian University in New Delhi. And today, what we're going to be talking about is this framework that has been developed. I think there is some noise in the room. Okay. So the workshop is about the DCDR framework that has been developed by the IO Foundation. The IO Foundation is a tech NGO based out of Malaysia that works on issues around digital rights, primarily through the lens of how our data is being collected, how it's being used, how it's being transferred, and we at the IO Foundation, the goal is to create technology that is safe by design, and this framework is supposed to help people to understand what is required in development of technology that can make it safer by design for the users and ensure that their digital rights are respected. And that's what we're going to talk about today through this workshop. I want to briefly explain how we will be going about this session. We will have Mr. Pavel Farhan first, who will be giving you an overview of what the DCDR framework is. Pavel is the Internet Governance Officer at the IO Foundation, and he's also a PhD scholar at AIT in Thailand. And once he gives us this overview of what the DCDR framework is, what its elements are, what its principles are, we will go on to scenario building exercise where we will go into breakout rooms and we will discuss sets of technological infrastructure that have become critical in our everyday life. And we want to see how we can use this framework to understand how to make this technological infrastructure safer. And to help us during the breakout rooms and to help us get through the scenarios, we have 4 amazing facilitators / speakers. We have Svetlana Zens. She is a human rights impact assessment expert and works with the Article 19 and she has worked in South Asia, Southeast Asia and she's an expert in public diplomacy and ICT regulations. We also have Adrian, who is a senior manager for policy and advocacy at Internet Society, and he works on issues that affect Internet's openness, connectivity, trustworthiness, and security, with an emphasis on the Asia-Pacific region. We also have Prapasiri. She's a project lead for digital rights in Thailand with EngageMedia, and she works on coordinating training and community development. She has a long experience working on socio-economic and human rights development issues. We also have Sadichchha Silwal. She's a program officer with Digital Rights Nepal. She's a lawyer by training and is also a human rights activist committed to advancing digital rights in Nepal. So we will have our facilitators who will help us with the scenario building exercises. And then also, once we're done with the scenario building exercises, they will help us reflect on the DCDR framework and how it can be used in practice and how it can be further developed to make sure that the needs of our time to make technology safer can truly be implemented. So with that, I want to pass the floor to Pavel to first take us through the DCDR framework. Pavel, over to you.
Sure, thank you so much. And I am very nervous because I'm filling in for John, who is our CEO and founder of the IO Foundation. So to fill in his shoes and, well, explain the data-centric digital rights framework in the best way possible, well, I am very nervous, but I will try my best, of course. If I could just share my slides, just give me a minute. Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Pavel Farhan, and I am an Internet Governance Officer for the IO Foundation. I am genuinely honored and nervous to be here, stepping in for John, our CEO and founder of the IO Foundation. Of course, John sends his deepest regrets, but his passion for this topic is infectious, and I'm committed to sharing his vision for data-centric digital rights framework. So just for those of you who may not be familiar with the IO Foundation, we are a nonprofit think tank and advocacy group dedicated to building rights-respecting digital infrastructure and open digital public good. So our work focuses specifically on the critical intersection of technology design, governance, and human rights, which is why the DCDR framework is so central to our global mission. So our session today, building rights-centric digital framework. But let's start with a question. So to everyone, of course, how many times a day have you been asked to protect yourself online? So nowadays, as digital citizens, we are forced to be a security expert, a privacy lawyer, and a risk analyst just to check your email. And the reason for that is the current model is fundamentally broken because digital products expect people to self-defend against complex risks that they reasonably evaluate. And this is why the DCDR framework exists. So the DCDR framework flips this unacceptable burden completely, actually. It mandates that protection must be built into technology by design, not outsourced to end users or after the fact legal remedies. We shift from reactive defense to proactive engineering. And this gives us our core idea in one line, which is protect citizens and their digital twins by transparently implementing applicable rights and regulations inside technology itself. This means we stop treating policy as a compliance checklist that lawyers worry about after the code is deployed. We need a new force. Technologists are treated as next generation rights defenders. So they are the ones who must encode protections directly into the infrastructures, protocols, applications, and interfaces. So this isn't just compliance, this is rights engineering. So think of it this way. We don't ask citizens to self-defend against a faulty bridge, right? We demand the engineer to build it to code, and digital infrastructure deserves the same rigor, the same protective design guarantee. And that's why the DCDR provides a blueprint for that guarantee. So the first key distinction is the human versus data-centric. To build this effectively, we need crystal clear boundaries, right? We can't focus or confuse the problems that the DCDR introduces because these are simple yet powerful receiver tests to separate the domains of human rights and DCDR. For example, if a receiver is human, a physical person, the harm materializes on the person. So examples may be censorship, physical threat. This is a human rights concern. But if the receiver is a digital twin, the modeled representation of a person or an object built from data and schema, then the harm materializes within the digital system. And this is a DCDR concern. The digital twin is a subject of DCDR by treating this digital entity as a separate yet inextricably linked. We clarify our technical scope. This separation allows us to focus on our engineering efforts, precisely where the harms originate, in the code and its underlying system. So we are protecting the model to protect the person. The DCDR principles there are three actionable DCDR principles, and I will break them down one by one for you. So these are non-negotiable principles, and these are your ethical and design mandates, regardless of your jurisdiction. So the first principle, which is, I am my data. This is the ethical core. It means we must treat other people's data as you would treat the people themselves. We must design and operate systems as if mishandling data. As if mishandling data is the same as mishandling a person. So this demands a profound level of respect and bans casual, non-purposeful data linkage. The second principle is end remedy. So this is a priority shift away from failure. Prioritize prevention over compensation. If your only recourse after a massive data leak is a legal settlement, you have utterly failed the user. We must engineer out foreseeable harms first. Legal remedies are only a safety net, but prevention is the primary measure of a healthy system. And our third principle is rights by design. So this is the engineering mandate, which is leave no policy uncoded. If a jurisdiction grants a protection, be it the right to be forgotten or the right to purpose binding, we must encode it so compliance is automatic, testable, and transparent. And this transforms policy from a dusty legal document into an executable compliance because code is policy. So what is the operational blueprint? So we agree on the why and the what, the core principles. How now for the nuts and the bolts, the operational model, how do we turn noble goal into an executable code? It starts with redefining the boundaries of existence itself. So first with lifecycle framing, just as a human life has a defined span, so must the digital twin. It moves from genesis, the moment it's created for a clearly stated legitimate purpose, to end of use, the completion of that purpose. So any operation that moves the twin outside of that stated purpose is a digital harm. As a DCDR right, then it is a proactive technical control that prevents that deviation. We are defining digital existence by its ethical boundaries. Secondly, taxonomics first, code second. We don't start coding, we start classifying first. Think of this as the Rosetta Stone of digital rights. Then derive the corresponding digital rights, and finally map those to testable controls. This rigorous standards-driven approach is the only way to enable universal auditability, interoperability, and a large-scale automation. We're creating a common language for digital safety. Thirdly, we have layered application. Where do you put this protection? You put it at the lowest feasible layer for the strongest guarantees. We apply protection starting at the infrastructure and protocol layer, cascading up to the application, and finally the UI and user experience. So unlike physics, we choose our digital surface. Every stakeholder lives at the UI layer, so the protections must be visible and operable there. If the right is invisible, it might as well not exist. And finally, the standards before government. And this is a crucial point for this forum because regulations are slow and they move at the speed of bureaucracy. The technical industry moves at the speed of light. If we want faster, more scalable protection, we must focus our influence on the technical standards adopted by builders globally. And this allows us to cascade protections across the industry much faster than jurisdiction by jurisdiction lobbying. Regulations set the law, standards make it executable. We are making compliance a feature, not a deadline. So what does good look like? Well, we believe that purpose binding is a machine enforced for every data set. There's freedom quadrants operationalized, which means for something like freedom of expression, we implement audited IO policies for the freedom to speak and the freedom not to speak. These are toggleable controls and not slogans. And finally, explainable enforcement. If an unauthorized query is blocked by the system, it doesn't just return an error, it provides the right decision, explaining which right blocked the operation and why. So for example, for a smart city infrastructure, this means that purpose-bounded sensing, no covert identity inference, and explainable blocking of unauthorized queries, all verified by public attestation dashboards. And well, I think I've spoken enough. I don't know how well I did, but I think it's a good time for me to stop and let's open up the conversation to our panelists, speakers, and facilitators. Back to you.
Thanks a lot, Pavel. So actually, so what we plan to do now is basically go into the breakout rooms first, and we'll have the scenario building exercise where we try to see how the DCDR framework can be applied to different technologies. And for this purpose, so our facilitators will be joining one of the breakout rooms each, and they will guide you through how we can approach this and how we can view different technologies through the lens of the DCDR framework. Christine, are we ready with the breakout rooms, or do we need a minute?
I need your confirmation with the number of breakout rooms.
So we'll need 3 breakout rooms
Okay,
for 20 minutes.
20 minutes. Okay, give me a minute to set up while you can continue.
Yeah. So I will share the scenarios in the chat.
Hello, we're back.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back. I hope you had uh, a good discussion on your particular scenario. And I just wanted to check with Nan and Adrian if there is someone else who will be speaking on behalf of the group, or will it be you? Okay. So Adrian, you were muted.
Yeah, for my group, we had some excellent thoughts from Alban. I would like to recommend that Alban share a few of his thoughts as well. I feel that'd be beneficial for us all.
Okay, so what we'll do is for group 3, we will have Alban speak about what they discussed, and after that we'll go to Adrian, Nan, and Svetlana to give a recap of the discussions and also share their thoughts on the DCDR framework. Alban, would you like to speak about what you discussed?
All right. Okay. Sure. So the group scenario is talking about smart city. There's a smart city. There's a lot of data being collected, and that's basically the scenario. I think in terms of how we treat data as the person question, I think one point that we raise is in that kind of scenario, the data point would a single person would have multiple different data. Now, for example, in my home Wi-Fi, I'll be using a particular IP addresses as a data, and then in the car might be using a different data or IP addresses or whatever methodology. So a single person would have multiple different data points. The concern then would be rather someone could actually correlate that data, maybe using my mobile phone data as example, on top of the car, data, GPS data to actually find out who I am. I think in the policy development process, we may have to think about how this kind of correlation needs to be governed or prohibited. Then when we move to the question, I forgot exactly what that is, but I think the discussion goes on to that. If we are using waste management as an example, given that it is anonymized already, it would be hard for someone to actually find out who exactly we are. But there's a possibility that someone could look into all the wastage and usage scenario and compare that against like low income suburbs versus in high income suburbs. There might be a different usage pattern. We may potentially able to identify on an individual household perspective, whether this particular household belongs to a Chinese or Indian. And if we are able to do that, then it could be used to say advertise like a Chinese restaurant to that particular building or that area, there is a potential usage of this kind of data from the e-waste management system with the tracking. So the question then becomes whether this is allowable usage or not, if you are not being individually identified from that data. I think we have to then discuss, about this. Maybe we need some kind of user agreement to allow certain types of data usage or not, stuff like that. And my last comment in the group is that security always has to balance around cost and convenience in cybersecurity. That's always the principle, because we can never achieve 100% security. Data security, in that sense, probably needs to think about the cost and the convenience to society as a kind of balance as well. That's all we discussed.
Thanks a lot, Alvin, for sharing your thoughts and discussion from the group. Really appreciate it. And so with that, we will move to the final segment where I would like to invite our speakers to share their reflections on the DCDR framework. Can we start with you, Dan?
Yes, absolutely. Would you like me to recap the discussion before I go to my
Sure. So
Okay.
we have about 12 minutes left. So we have 3 of you, maybe 4 minutes each, if that's okay.
Okay. I'll do that. I'll try. So in our discussion, the scenario is looking at e-commerce platforms, and this concerns an e-platform that operates across Asia Pacific in multiple countries with varying data protection levels. So the core problems that are at hand here is how do we maintain data representation, or AKA the digital twin, when these data are being transferred across different jurisdictions to different partners, and determining the responsibility and duties of care for when it gets handled by different people. Now, the discussion led to some proposed mechanism. Pavel suggested a unified digital twin master record, so that when the data is fragmented, the platform can maintain a unified identity of the user across different geography and different agencies that handle the data itself. And then another one is aligning very closely with this DCDR framework around purpose binding enforcement, so that each data gets explicitly tagged for its original purpose, and that it's automatically used for such purpose and such purpose only, and that there must be oversight mechanism to prevent data abuse and misuse in this scenario. And so in terms of the responsibility and duties of care, the primary responsibility is around the taxonomy creator themselves, right, to define what harms and what rights are. And then secondary responsibility is the engineers and the technologists who implement this frameworks into the design of the technology. And lastly, the platform itself is accountable for internal enforcement mechanism. So that's in the gist what we discussed. Now, in terms of my feedback on the DCDR framework, I think this is an amazing attempt to create an alternative complementary advocacy channel to influence technical standards from the ground up. Because if safety and rights compliance are built directly into standards and not added later, then commercial success depends on compliance rather than compromise in the margins as a balance against profit. It's built in. So I think this is very revolutionary that the IO Foundation is working towards this. I think there's a parallel opportunity for regulators to do sectoral specialization for the harm taxonomy. So if the harms can be specialized for each sector much like how industrial regulation is specialized for each sector, then the harms can be categorized and operationalized for a different use for different technology. I think this would respond to the specific consumer harms for each product more efficiently. So that's more of in terms of what I think the trajectory of future work to undertake. And then the other, I guess, area of development that I think can be done is enhanced collaboration between policymakers and technologists, because these rights exist in principle in everywhere in many countries already, but translating these into like enforceable mandates across regulatory landscape is still a huge chunk of work to do. So we need policymaker and technologists to be in the same room deciding the common denominator to ensure that these rights are encoded into the standards for the technology to be developed on. And on top of that, the infrastructure has to be built for that conversation as well. So this underpins the multi-stakeholder aspiration in internet governance, which is what the IGF is designed for. So I think this is a perfect platform for that. And that's all for my feedback. Thank you. Back to you, Yuk.
Thank you so much, Nan, and also for sharing those insights. I think industry-specific taxonomies is a great idea. That is definitely something that the Foundation needs to look at. And also finding those spaces where policymakers and technologists can both be there in the same room, so that then they have this sort of common language to have the dialogue and build safer technology. Svetlana, can you go next?
Well, thank you so much. Well, I mean, our kind of discussion was very frightening because we were talking about government. So it's about one of the government initiative launching a very comprehensive digital identity system that collects quite a lot of information. I mean, starting from biometrics, the residential history, education, employment, family transactions, and etc. And of course, it raised a lot of concerns. I mean, overall, as the situation, like what actually going to happen if the government doesn't have the accountability and transparency of this using of all the data they collected. And during the group discussion, well, I mean, we call it so, it was raised a couple of very important points regarding privacy in terms of that. It's very important to understand where is the data used after they've been collected? What are the mechanisms of accountability from the state or the collectors regarding if there will be data breaches or regarding of the, unlawful usage of the data? And we also mentioned Aadhaar as one of the examples for the data collection, which is also quite like, as we discussed, that's from economical perspective, it's quite successful initiative because it doesn't cost a lot. But from the perspective of data collection, it's quite comprehensive, or I wouldn't call comprehensive, quite complicated, sorry, and multi-layered initiative, which collects quite a lot of data, and it's quite difficult sometimes to identify a certain, like even among the people in terms of like whose Aadhaar it belongs to. What else did we discuss? Well, in terms of like, of course, excessive data collection, which is not supposed to be a case. And I think in the nutshell, this is all. And I already get the notification at the time. Yeah. Yeah. So this is all from me, from our group.
Do you want to share any general idea about the DCDR framework? What are your thoughts on the framework itself?
Is that for me or
Sorry.
for?
Svetlana, if do you want to share any general thoughts on the DCDR framework itself?
Well, I mean, in terms of the framework, of course, there are certain concerns about the digital ID, regarding that the digital ID should not represent the physical ID, and there should be definitely a safeguards to prevent any falls in the digital world, in order to reduce the risk for the physical being, let's say. And of course, I mean, from the perspective of human rights impact assessment person, I always looking for the remedies in case, the crisis happened, how do we manage it? So yeah, I think that's all for me.
Sure. Thanks a lot, Svetlana. Adrian, over to you. What do you think about the DCDR framework and how can it be built upon?
It's only very thought-provoking to realize that once we were given these scenarios and then Pavel showed us the framework, then I realized, oh, that actually turns the conventional way of working on its head. It's the other way around. Yeah, we didn't realize that before that, right? So I feel I see we don't have much time, but I feel one thing that's beneficial from this, and there are many others, but one key thing that I can think of now is that it is clear to me that a rights respecting society is not one that collects the most data. It is one that knows when not to collect the data and incorporates rights by design, and shouldn't be an afterthought. It should be built into the design. I feel that's one key takeaway from me that I think is really insightful for this framework, and I look forward to seeing it developing, and hopefully the internet society stands ready to contribute to it as well.
Thanks a lot, Adrian. And I think we can close the workshop with the ideas that our speakers have shared. And also, I just want to thank all of our speakers for joining us and for facilitating the breakout rooms and for sharing your thoughtful feedback on the DCDR framework and what we can do to make the framework better and also therefore make technology better and safer for everyone. I want to thank all the participants who joined and who shared their thoughts during the breakout sessions as well. And Pavel for so John fell sick and Pavel had to work on the presentation in a very short time. So thank you so much for being up for it. So thanks a lot, everyone. Thank you for joining. Thank you for taking out the time and sharing your ideas. And we look forward to working with you all to improve the DCDR framework and work towards building safer technology. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.